Bad, new, or just downright trolling players are common in any MMO, and Final Fantasy XI was no exception. But with such a heavy time investment for even the simplest of tasks, these players could be a tad bit more frustrating than in a game where full dungeons could take like less than 30 minutes, and you could shrug off that wasted time and continue enjoying your night. In Final Fantasy XI, these people sometimes could be your night. But with the amount of content in Final Fantasy XI that actually requires a full group dwindling every day, I figured it was time to take a trip down memory lane and go through some of the most frustrating kind of players that you could encounter. So let's get right into it. And first off, huge thanks to Yanesio for suggesting this video and reminding me of all the amazing ways that players could just really drive you freaking nuts in one of my favorite games. Because with a game like this that I quite happily spent hundreds of real-life days on, sessions playing that were totally wasted have a way of making a bad and lasting impression. So hey guys, it's Hunt for Games, welcome back for more Final Fantasy XI, and let's get right into some of my most hated players in one of my favorite games. So let's kick it off with one of the more common annoyances, the trainer. The trainer is that player that maybe pulled something a bit too hard, or linked an enemy they didn't mean to, or maybe they're just intentionally griefing other players for the hell of it and trying to ruin a good time. After dragging any enemy to the zone's edge, a player could zone out and leave the confused mob with nothing to do but wander back to its camp, bitter that it missed out on a delicious kill. On the way back to camp, which by the way could be anywhere in the zone, it would likely pass some other unknowing player that doesn't expect mobs to just be wandering around on their own. What made this worse and actually gives the term its name is that it's usually not just one. In a desperate run to escape, multiple mobs would link up with the original or just aggro the players themselves. Suddenly you'd have goblins and tigers and bears, oh my, everything just following this player as he sprints towards the edge of the zone, creating a train of desperate enemies sprinting along fueled by nothing but their raw hatred for the player. This obviously wasn't unique to Final Fantasy XI, but it really could ruin your night, especially in this game. And if you don't remember how badly it could affect your experience, I leave you with Yoder Jungle. Yoder Jungle had some tightly packed camps right by the zone to Yatunga, with fresh little goblins and mandragores just waiting to be plucked. With the camps being so tightly packed and some of the pulls being more difficult than others, especially if it was really crowded some nights, inevitably some party would get aggro they didn't mean to, or someone would die, or any number of random oopsies that can happen in Final Fantasy XI. See, Yoder Jungle by all normal methods of travel was pretty far from basically anywhere else. If your home point was Juneau, for instance, which is a common and fortunate home point for this scenario, you still had to wait for the Kazam airship, which could be like a 30-minute experience if you had to wait for basically the whole round trip and then get on the airship. Then you had to get a chocobo out to Yoder Jungle through Yatunga, which was basically a maze in itself, probably getting lost, probably losing other party members, who knows. Point is, if you died, there was a chance your party would just break up. With a possible 45-minute wait for everybody to get back out there, your camp might not even be there when you get back. So with things having gone wrong in your party and everyone likely going to die, you could either all suck up that death and possibly give up your partying for the night, or sprint your way to that zone, dragging that goblin you're fighting and all of his friends that you run past along the way. But this was usually back through multiple camps, forcing everyone to stop until the goblin had made its way back, which was this slow, meandering walk, and they'd stop and look around and be like, I've never been here before, this is pretty cool. It was really slow. I remember one where it seemed like every goblin in the zone was at the Yoder Jungle zone. And every time somebody would try to zone back in, they would immediately get attacked and killed, but it would keep the goblins there. And they didn't leave for 45 minutes. It was just 45 minutes of wasted time. Ugh. And people died during this stuff. I mean, if people didn't realize that a bunch of goblins at a party had just run past them, or maybe it was only one, they might just hang out and keep playing, not realizing what's going on. And all of a sudden the goblins come on back and where are we going? That's a nice party. Let's hang out. And if you're already fighting something, it's hard to kind of just jump into another fight, even if there's only one. I will say, and I'm sure a bunch of you have already been screaming this at your monitor, but Square Enix eventually did, because this got so bad, make an update that prevented enemies from walking back to their camps if they got too far from their original spawns. They just kind of pop out of existence. While it did make the game much less painful in many ways, I'll always kind of miss, in the back of my mind, that truly dangerous times where running away wasn't always an option. Sometimes you just had to bite the bullet for the good of your fellow man. Now, I wanted to start off with this one as a gentle reminder that likely at some point we have all done some or most of these things. More so than me. I've done all of these. When you first start off Final Fantasy XI, dying seems like the worst possible thing in the world. You'd avoid it at almost any cost. With no money and experience points impossibly hard to come by, you didn't want to waste any time or gil on travel that you already done. Which sort of leads me to my next favorite player type. The I'm trying out a new way of playing guy. Now, one of Final Fantasy XI's best qualities was its flexibility. You could sub any job to anything else, and if you wanted to run up and smack the crap out of an enemy you were fighting that's a white mage with a club, you're welcome to try. But that didn't make it a good idea, and while everyone would be excited about the prospect of new playstyles that were secretly amazing and no one had really ever gotten to work before, most people didn't want you testing out these new playstyles on them. It was sort of the catch-22. Everyone wanted to be like, oh, we tried out this new thing and it was super fast and it was awesome and it was amazing, but at the same time you're like, but I've only got 2 hours. I'd really rather not waste all of that because you want to try out Samurai Black Mage. I once got into a bit of an argument with a Sam Black Mage. I was trying it out and he was actually a really nice guy and I still feel bad to this day. I think I've actually told this story. But I eventually kicked him and got somebody else. But like as I was kicking him, he's like, haha, okay, I get it, I'll change. I was like, oh no, it's far too late, buddy. I'm sorry. If you're out there, Samurai Black Mage, I apologize for kicking you after an hour of Samurai Black Maging. Now, I'll also be the first to admit that I've pulled a few of these myself. Dual tanking Sams all the way to 75, solo healing as a pup or dragoon, but I was always upfront about it, or started the party myself, or at least was driven by pure desperation because there aren't any healers anywhere. What I'm talking about are the people you get out to the camps with who refuse to do anything but like melee on Red Mage to the exclusion of spells like Haste and Refresh that are crucial to your success. White Mages who won't rest after a fight when they have no MP because they don't want to give up that little TP they have for that like Shining Strike that does like 30 damage. Rangers that refuse to pull because they just don't really feel like it when nobody else in the party even has a ranged attack. This kind of stuff could seemingly make an amazing party makeup terrible. And it was even worse when you'd start the party yourself and you'd be all excited. You'd say, damn good job, son. This is going to be a great party. I love this setup. Look, we've got a puller, tank, healer, support, damage dealers. We've got the whole thing. And then somebody ruins it. But deep down, at least you'd look back on it and be like, well, I mean, at least they were trying. I don't agree with their methods, but whatever. I mean, there were worse parties. Worse than that were those that would wait until almost frustratingly the party was just about to begin. Maybe you just got to the camp, maybe you're waiting for one little straggler that's still like wandering his way through the zone. Maybe you just fought a mob or two and you're just kind of getting steam going. You haven't even gotten through a full chain. Then comes the dreaded, sorry guys, gotta go. And it was always like the Red Mage or the Bard or the Paladin. It was never something useless like Dark Knight. Shitty Dark Knight. Dark Knights would party for like 36 hours straight if they were given the opportunity on no sleep, no water, no food. I had a friend once who, in the dead of sleep, before the little tell change where the tell would like ding, this was a silent tell, woke up from pure unconsciousness when he got a party invite as Dark Knight. He was like, yes, party. We're sitting like, what? You were asleep. You've been unconscious. He's like, I got a party invite. The worst part about this was that a lot of times it was like a valid reason to leave. I mean, relatives showed up, emergencies happened, who knows, and you can't really be pissed at them for it. Like, life comes first, I get it. But it doesn't mean you have to be happy about it. And usually you couldn't find a new player, and sometimes the party would just have to break up before it even began. After hours and hours of setup. But that's all I've got for this entry of players we love to hate. I could go on and probably will. I actually really enjoyed making this one, which sounds kind of weird, but it's nice to get this stuff all off my chest. But again, thanks to you and SEO for the amazing suggestion. Really excited to get into more detail in the future about some of the more hated stories in Final Fantasy XI, especially stuff that I've done. I've done some shitty stuff. But as always, thanks for hanging out for some more Final Fantasy XI. And if it's your first time to the channel, think about subscribing and checking out some of my other videos, especially the Final Fantasy XI ones, because that game is truly amazing. But we've got plenty on other MMOs and other games in general too, so stick around. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. I once got into a bit of an argument with a Sam Black Mage. I was trying it out, and he was actually a really nice guy, and I still feel bad to this day. I think I've actually told this story. But I eventually kicked him and got somebody else. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, you should totally think about subscribing. I've got videos coming out twice a week, and if you like this one, there's at least a chance you like some of the others that are very similar to this, so live dangerously. Let me know what you guys thought about the video in the comments and other videos you'd like to see. And finally, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Huntin for Games to keep up with all the latest stuff. See ya!